smell of hospital disinfectant still makes my stomach turn. Not because of the sickness, because of the memory. I was sitting in a cold plastic chair in a London waiting room. My back hurt. My hands were shaking. I had just been told I needed surgery. A routine thing. Nothing dangerous. But I was scared. I called my daughter Claire. She is my only child. The one I put through law school. The one I paid for with overtime shifts at the factory. She answered on the fourth ring. Her voice was sharp, busy. She said, "Mom, I am in a deposition. Can this wait?" I said, "I am in the hospital, Claire." She sighed. That heavy sigh like I was a burden. Like I was a problem to be solved. She said, "I will call you later." She never did. That was the moment I realized. My own daughter had checked out of my life. Not with a fight. With a sigh. My name is Susan. Everyone calls me Susie. I am 68 years old. I was born in Manchester. My parents worked in a textile mill. We lived in a small row house with a shared bathroom. Nothing fancy. But we had each other. That was enough. I left school at 16. I started working at a biscuit factory, packing cookies into boxes, 8 hours a day, standing on a concrete floor. My feet ached. My back ached. But I was young. I could handle it. I met my husband Paul at a dance hall. He was funny, loud. He made everyone laugh. We married 6 months later. Small wedding, big love. Our daughter Claire was born a year after that. She came out screaming. The nurse said she had lungs like a foghorn. I laughed. I held that baby and I promised her the world. Not the rich world. The good world. A world where she would not have to stand on a concrete floor for 8 hours a day. Paul worked construction. I stayed home with Claire for a few years. Then I went back to the factory. We saved every penny. We put Claire in good schools. We bought her books. We bought her a computer. We bought her a chance. Claire was smart. Too smart, maybe. She got straight A's. She won scholarships. She went to university. Then law school. We were so proud. Paul would tell everyone at the pub. My daughter the lawyer. My daughter the big shot. My daughter who is going to change the world. Claire graduated top of her class. She got a job at a fancy London firm. Corporate law. Big money. She bought a flat in Chelsea. She drove a German car. She wore suits that cost more than our monthly rent. Paul got sick when Claire was 30. Cancer. Slow and mean. He fought for 2 years. Claire visited twice. Twice in 2 years. She said she was busy. She said she had cases. She said she would come when things slowed down. Things never slowed down. Paul died on a Tuesday. I held his hand. Claire was in court. She sent flowers. A big arrangement. White lilies. His favorite. I put them on his grave and I cried. Not for Paul. He was at peace. I cried for me. For the loneliness that was already wrapping itself around me like a cold blanket. After Paul died, I thought Claire would step up. I thought she would call more. Visit more. Check on me. But the opposite happened. She called less. She visited never. She sent money. £2,000 every month. Like clockwork. The money arrived. But she did not. I tried to talk to her about it. I called her one evening. She answered on the second ring. Surprising. She said, "Mom, I am really busy." I said, "Claire, I am lonely. I need to see you." She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Mom, I cannot be your emotional support animal. I have a life. I have a career. I have responsibilities. Hire a companion. Join a club. Get a hobby. Just stop leaning on me. I am not your husband. I hung up. I sat in the dark. The clock ticked. The house creaked. I was not angry. I was just tired. Tired of being a burden to the person I loved most in the world. The trigger came on my 65th birthday. A big one. I did not want a party. I just wanted Claire to come home for dinner. I called her a month in advance. I said, Claire, it is my birthday. Can you come? She said she would try. I planned everything. I cleaned the house. I bought a small cake. I made her favorite dish. Chicken roast. The recipe from my mother. I set the table with the good plates. The ones Paul and I got for our wedding. I put flowers in a vase. I lit candles. I waited. 6 p.m. came. Then 7. Then 8. I called Claire. No answer. I texted. No reply. I called again. Voicemail. At 9:30, my phone buzzed. A text. It said, Mom, so sorry. Got stuck at work. Client dinner. Could not get away. Happy birthday. We'll send a gift. I looked at the cake. The candles were still unlit. The chicken was cold. The flowers were still pretty. But I was not. I sat at that table for an hour, alone. With the good plates. With the cold food. With the silence. That was the sharp turning point. I realized that Claire was not busy. She was not stuck. She was choosing. She was choosing everything else over me. And I let her. I always let her. The first incident happened a few months after my birthday. I fell in my kitchen. Slipped on a wet spot. Nothing broke. Just a bruised hip. But I could not get up. I lay on the cold floor for 3 hours. My phone was on the counter. Too far to reach. I shouted. No one heard. Finally, I managed to crawl to the sofa. I pulled myself up. I sat there shaking. The next day I called Claire. I told her what happened. She said, Mom, you need to be more careful. I said, I need help, Claire. I need you. She said, I cannot drop everything every time you have a small accident. Hire a cleaner. Install grab bars. Get a life alert button. I am not a nurse. I hung up. I called a local company. I installed grab bars in the bathroom. I bought a life alert button. I wore it around my neck like a bell on a cow. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a lonely old woman with a panic button. That was not who I wanted to be, but it was who I had become. The second incident was the nursing home suggestion. Claire came to visit. First time in 2 years. She walked into my house like a stranger, looking around, touching things, frowning. She said, Mom, this house is too big for you. Too many stairs. Too much maintenance. I think you should sell it. Move into a nice, assisted living facility. I know a good one in Surrey. Very clean. Very professional. I looked at her. I said, Claire, this is my home. This is where you grew up. This is where your father died. She said, Mom, that is sentimental. Sentiment does not pay bills. Sentiment does not keep you safe. She pulled out her phone. She showed me photos of a facility. White walls. Fluorescent lights. Old people in wheelchairs staring at a television. She said, see how nice it is. I said no. She said, Mom, you are being unreasonable. I said no, Claire. She put her phone away. She stood up. She said, fine. Stay here. But do not call me when you fall again. I am done being your emergency contact. She walked out. The door closed. The house was quiet. I sat on the sofa. The panic button hung around my neck, heavy, useless like me. The third incident was the money fight. Claire had been sending me £2,000 a month for years. I never asked for it. She just sent it. Like a subscription. Like a bill. I used some of it. Saved most of it. One day she called and said, "Mom, I need you to sign a document." I asked what document. She said a financial agreement. "It says you will not claim any more money from me beyond the monthly amount. It says you waive your rights to any inheritance from my estate." I said, "Claire, I never asked for your money." She said, "Good. Then signing this should be easy." I said, "I am not signing anything." She said, "Then I am stopping the monthly transfer." I said, "Fine." She stopped. I did not care about the money. I cared about what the money meant. It was not love. It was a payment. A payment to keep me quiet. A payment to keep me away. And when I refused to sign, she stopped paying. That told me everything. I was never her mother. I was just a line item in her budget. The discovery came on a rainy Sunday. I was cleaning out Paul's old desk. He kept everything: receipts, cards, photographs. I found a folder labeled Claire University. I opened it. Inside were every receipt from her education: tuition, books, fees, room and board. I added them up. £120,000. That was what we spent. Paul and me. Overtime shifts. Second jobs. No vacations. No new cars. No new clothes. All of it for her. I also found a letter. A letter Claire had written to Paul years ago. I never saw it before. The letter said, "Dad, thank you for everything. I know you and Mom worked hard. I know you sacrificed. I will pay you back someday. I will take care of you when you are old. I promise." I read that letter 5 times. A promise. She wrote a promise. And she broke it. Not because she could not keep it. Because she did not want to. I put the letter back in the folder. I closed the desk. I went to the kitchen. I made tea. I watched the rain. The rain was honest. It fell on everyone. Rich and poor. Loved and unloved. The rain did not make promises it could not keep. My daughter did. That same week I found something else. Claire had been telling people I had dementia. I did not know this. A neighbor told me. She said, "Susie, I ran into Claire at the supermarket. She said you were forgetting things, confused, needing full-time care." I was shocked. I said, "I am not confused. I do my own shopping. I pay my own bills. I drive my own car." The neighbor shrugged. She said, "I know Susie." But that is what Claire said. I sat with that information. My daughter was lying about me. Not to help me. To prepare people. To make it easier when she eventually put me in a home. If people already thought I was crazy, they would not question it. They would just nod and say, "Oh, that poor woman. That poor family." I was not crazy. I was not confused. I was just old. And in Claire's world, old meant disposable. I decided to stop being a victim. Not with anger. With action. Small, quiet actions. The kind that do not make noise. The kind that do not need applause. First, I called a solicitor. A woman named Margaret. She was old like me. Gray hair. Kind eyes. She listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Susie, this happens more than you think. Successful children who forget where they came from." She helped me draft a new will. Everything I have goes to a local charity. A food bank. The same food bank that helped us when Paul was sick and money was tight. I told Margaret I want nothing to go to Claire. Margaret said, "That is your right." I signed the papers. I felt lighter. Second, I started documenting my life. A simple notebook. Every day I wrote down what I did, what I ate, who I talked to. I took photos with my phone, dated them. I made short videos. Good morning. Today is Monday. I am feeling fine. I just walked to the shop and back. No dizziness. No confusion. That notebook became my shield. If Claire ever tried to claim I had dementia, I had proof. Real proof. Not her words, my life. Third, I built a new family. Not with blood. With choice. I joined a walking group at the local community center. Women my age. Some older. Some younger. We walked together every Tuesday and Thursday. We talked about our kids, our dead husbands, our sore knees. We laughed, we cried. We shared biscuits. One woman named Pat became my close friend. She had a daughter like Claire, a daughter who forgot her. Pat and I made a pact. We would check on each other every day. A phone call, a text, a knock on the door. No one would lie on a cold floor for 3 hours again. Not me, not Pat, not any of us. The last part of my plan was the hardest. I wrote Claire a letter. Not an angry letter. A calm one. I wrote, "Claire, I love you. I will always love you. But I am done chasing you. I am done begging for scraps of your attention. I am going to live my life now, without waiting for you. If you want to see me, you know where I am. The door is open, but I will not hold it open forever." I mailed the letter. I did not expect a reply. I did not get one. And for the first time in years, that was okay. The confrontation came 6 months later. I did not plan it. Claire showed up at my door on a Sunday afternoon. She looked different, thinner, older. Dark circles under her eyes. She was not wearing a fancy suit. Just jeans and a sweater. She looked like a regular person. Not a corporate lawyer. Not a big shot. Just a tired woman. She said, "Mom, can I come in?" I stepped aside. She walked into the living room. She looked around. At the photos on the wall. At the old sofa. At the blanket Paul always used. She sat down. She started crying. Not pretty crying. Ugly crying. The kind where your face gets red and your nose runs. I sat across from her. I waited. She said, "Mom, I lost my job. The firm let me go. Downsizing." She said my husband left me. He said I was cold. That I cared more about work than him. She said I have nowhere else to go. She looked at me. Her eyes were wet. Her voice was small. She said, "Mom, can I stay here for a while? Just a few weeks. Just until I figure things out." I looked at my daughter. The woman I raised. The woman who forgot me. The woman who called me a burden. The woman who tried to put me in a home. She was sitting on my sofa asking for help. And something old and deep inside me wanted to say yes immediately. That is what mothers do. We say yes. We always say yes. But something else inside me said no. Not a cruel no. A careful no. I said, "Claire, you can stay for 1 week. 1 week. While you look for other arrangements. I will feed you. I will give you a bed. But I will not be your emergency contact again. I will not be your fallback plan. I am your mother. Not your insurance policy." Claire looked at me. Her mouth opened, closed. Opened again. She said, "Mom, I said I was sorry." I said, "You did not say you were sorry. You said you lost your job. Those are different things." She stared at me. She said, "You have changed." I said, "Yes, I have. I had to." Because you were not going to change for me. So I changed for myself. Claire stayed for 1 week. She slept in her old bedroom. She ate my cooking. She walked with me and Pat. She saw my life. The walking group. The food bank. The notebook. The videos. She saw that I was not confused. I was not demented. I was not waiting for her to save me. I had saved myself. On the 7th day, she packed her bag. She stood at the door. She said, "Mom, I do not know what to say." I said, "You do not have to say anything. Just do better with the next person who loves you. Because I am the last person who will love you for free. Everyone else will charge rent." She left. I closed the door. I did not cry. I made tea. I called Pat. I said my daughter came and went. Pat said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I am better than okay. I am free." Claire did not come back for a long time. 8 months. She got a new job. A smaller firm. Less money. Less prestige. She started therapy. She told me this on the phone one night. She said, "Mom, my therapist says I have attachment issues." I said, "Your therapist sounds smart." She laughed. A real laugh. Not the sharp laugh. The soft one. The one she had as a child. She said, "Mom, I am sorry. For real this time. Not because I need something. Because I finally understand." I said, "Thank you, Claire. That means something." She visits now. Once a month. We get lunch. We walk in the park. We talk about nothing important. The weather, the news. A funny thing the neighbor said. It is not the relationship I dreamed of. But it is a relationship. And that is more than I had for years. I have stopped waiting for her to be the daughter I wanted. She is the daughter she is, flawed, busy, selfish sometimes. But trying. Trying matters. The food bank got my house in my will. Not Claire. I told her this. She said, "Mom, that is fair." I said, "I am glad you think so." She did not argue. She did not get angry. She just nodded. That told me she had really changed. The old Claire would have fought. The new Claire just accepted. People can change. Not always. Not quickly. But sometimes. If they want to. If they work at it. I still have the notebook. I still take my videos. Not because I need to prove anything anymore. Because I like remembering. I like looking back at my days and seeing that I lived. Not just existed. I walked, I talked. I laughed, I loved. Even when love was hard. Especially when love was hard. Pat passed away last year. Cancer, fast, mean. I held her hand at the end. Just like I held Paul's hand. She squeezed my fingers and whispered, "Thank you, Susie. For being my family." I cried then. Not for me, for her. For the beauty of a friendship that asked for nothing and gave everything. Pat left me her little dog. A scruffy thing named Benny. Benny sleeps on my bed. He follows me from room to room. He licks my face when I am sad. He is not a daughter. But he is company. And company is enough. The moral of this story is not about revenge. It is not about winning. It is about letting go. Letting go of the dream. Letting go of the expectation. Letting go of the daughter you thought you had so you can see the daughter you actually have. Or letting go of her entirely if that is what keeps you safe. There is no shame in walking away. There is no shame in closing the door. There is no shame in choosing yourself after a lifetime of choosing everyone else. I am 68 years old. My knees hurt. My hands shake. I live alone in a house that is too big for one person. But I am not lonely. I have my walking group. I have Benny. I have the food bank. I have the memory of Paul's laugh. And I have a daughter who calls once a month. That is not a tragedy. That is a life. A real life. Full of cracks and repairs. Full of disappointment and small joys. Full of tears and tea and the smell of chicken roast on a Sunday. I close my eyes. I see the factory. The concrete floor. The biscuits. I see Paul at the dance hall. Big smile. Bad dancing. I see Claire as a baby. Tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb. I did not get the ending I wanted, but I got an ending. And that is more than some people get. That is grace. Not the grace of forgiveness. The grace of acceptance. This is my life. These are my choices. And I am still here. Still standing. Still writing my own story. If you have a child who forgot you hit that like button, share this story with another mother who needs to hear it. Subscribe to her voices for more real life stories told quiet and told true. You are not forgotten here. We see you. We hear you. We are you. Keep walking. Keep loving. Keep choosing yourself. One day at a time. One biscuit at a time. One small joy at a time.